Hello and welcome to my cozy little office. It's raining outside, I've got some tea, and today we are going to start on our first video in my How to Plan a Road Trip series. So today we're gonna go over the first steps of planning a road trip, which is figuring out how long it's going to take. That's kind of an important step. So please grab a pencil and some paper, or open a notes app on your phone or your computer so that you can follow along while we make our road trip outline. If you're not there yet, just listen along so you know what to do. And I will get my stuff open too so we can do this. I have been road tripping since I was just a kid. My parents took my brother and I all over the Western United States to a bunch of national parks and things, tons of camping. So now as an adult, I've road tripped with my brother, with my friends. I've gone solo a lot, and I've done everything from a 5-day drive to my longest trip was just under 10 weeks long. It was amazing. It was with my friend Mel. This is the route. We visited 24 national parks, 13 major cities, and tons of other amazing spots across 34 states. It was truly incredible. I'm never gonna forget it. So, all that being said, I think I'm qualified to say that I could give advice on how to plan a road trip at this point. So, I'm going to be as thorough as possible. It might feel like a lot of information, but just trust me and trust the process. You should feel confident hitting the road when we are done with this series. So to keep it simple, I am going to break it into 3 videos. And in this first video, we're going to plot our destinations on Google Maps, and we're going to figure out how much time we actually need to visit all of these places and where to stop in between if you have big dead zones. So it's gonna show us right away if our road trip goals are realistic for the amount of time that you want to achieve them in. If you already know where you're going and about how long you're staying in every destination and what's gonna take to get there, where you're staying in between them, then go ahead and jump to video 2 of this series where we go over how to create the most accurate budget possible for your trip. And then our third video of this series is going to be on the road tips and tricks and skills that you should have. So time management, basic navigation, and other things just to be aware of while you are traversing our beautiful country. So, like I said, if you follow along from step 1 with me, you're going to have a complete road trip plan by the end and all the tools to stick to your road trip plan and make it successful. So let's dive into our very first step right here on my laptop. Let's open up your favorite navigation program. I'm going to be using Google Maps since most people are familiar with it and have access to it. And let's also open up something to make our trip outline on. I like to use my Notes app on my Mac and my iPhone since it shares to all my devices, so I can look at my outline whenever I need to. This outline will also come in handy before and during your trip, so I recommend putting it somewhere easily accessible. Once you have that ready, we will start with our Google Maps. Now, first we're going to just get an idea of possible routes. So first we're going to plot your furthest destination. So forget all your other destinations, just put in your furthest one, and then set your starting point if it's different from your current location. Now, Google is going to show us the recommended routes to that furthest destination. So this is going to help us when we are planning our route home if we're wanting to change up the scenery. So here we can see that my route A is through Utah and my route B is through Colorado. And your map might even have a third option as well. So just take a mental note of that for later. And now we're going to replace that furthest destination that we put in with our closest destination. So the spot that we know we're going to stop first. So tap Add Destination and plot in your second point and your third, and so on until we get to the furthest again. Don't worry if you don't know all of your stops yet, just put in the ones that you do know. This road trip that I'm plotting is a trip from Portland, Oregon to Wichita Falls, Texas, and back. Wichita Falls is my furthest point. So I will be referring to your road trip in 2 sections. Trust me, this is going to help. The departing trip and the returning trip, with your furthest point being that turnaround point. So I like to plot these two sections of my trip in two different Google Maps windows so I can get a better visual since the routes usually overlap at some point. Also, Google will only let you put in 10 destinations per window, and I actually recommend that you only put in 8 or 9 per window so that way you have room to add more, especially if you're not totally sure where you're going yet. So once you fill up 8 or 9 spots, just open another tab and pick up where you left off until your trip is complete. You might end up with like 3 or 4 maps open for a complete route if your trip is a little longer. And in that case, I would just think of your journey as having 3 or 4 main sections instead of just the 2 like mine is going to have. Chopping it up like that helps us focus just on one group of destinations at a time, and it makes things less overwhelming if your trip is super long or ambitious. Also, for the returning section or sections of your trip, so the part of your trip where we are coming back towards our home base, if there is a lot of overlap in your route, sometimes that's unavoidable, but always remember that mental note we made of those alternate route options that Google showed us. So I may have just wanted to go from Portland through Utah to Texas, but hey, I remember that Google said taking the Colorado route was similar in drive time, so now I know that I can switch it up on the way home and enjoy Colorado too. And again, don't worry if there are big blank spaces in your trip, we will fill those gaps as we go. And Google even offers interesting locations that are along your path right down here under your route info, and those can help fill in those empty spaces, but like I said, we will get to that later. So we're all plotted and Google is showing us our total drive time for the entire trip. If you had to open more than one Google Maps tab or chose to just use 2 like I did, just add your total times together so that we know the complete mileage and estimated drive time for our main route. So here, if I add my routes together, I've got 61 hours and 3,931 miles. Heck yeah. So jot this information down at the top of your notes of our little outline here. I'm going to label it as main route because this is just our drive time and mileage to get to those places and back, not the time and mileage we're going to burn adventuring and enjoying these places. Okay, so now that we can visually see where we are going and how far it is between each place, we need to figure out where we are going to sleep each night. Now, I am not the kind of traveler that needs to have every hour of every day planned out. I do not like to travel like that. I'm a very flexible, spontaneous person. So when I say figure out where we're sleeping each night, I mean, we're getting a rough idea of how far we can make it each day and where we're going to be landing at the end of our drive days. So that could be like anywhere within like an hour window at the end of your drive, depending on how long your drive is, just to give you some wiggle room. So let's go back to our Google Maps page and start filling in our outline. You're going to tap details right here so that we can see the breakdown of the drive between each destination, and most importantly right now, the time between each destination. Okay, so back in our notes, day 1, I'm actually not going to put the number 1 because we're going to move stuff around a little bit, so I like to just number them at the end. And start with your wake up point for your first day like this. Now, looking over here, I can see that my first destination, Boise, Idaho, is 6.5 hours from my start point. So I note that like this. Now, I also know that I'm going to sleep there, so I add that too. Okay, time to ask yourself, how much can you drive in a day? And how much do you want to drive in a day? Personally, I consider a 3 to 5 hour drive a half day of driving, and a 6 to 8 hour day, a full day of driving. I've also done 9 to 12 hour drives, but they require like some mental rest stops and even like power naps. And I've also found that those drives sometimes kind of burn me out for the next day and they're just a lot less enjoyable. So I try to keep it to the 6 to 8 hour for a full drive day. Also consider how long it will take you to pack up in the morning and unpack at night, and if you are okay with getting to your destinations at night. If you're tent camping or RVing, that can be kind of inconvenient. When I'm solo traveling as a woman, I really like to get to, especially if I've never been there before, get to my location when I can see my surroundings. That's kind of comforting. But yeah, just a lot of things to consider. With all that in mind, let's dive back into it. Really quick, guys, if you're enjoying this video, please drop a like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this kind of content. I vlog about my road trips, and under my road trip planning playlist, I have a ton of resources for you to plan your own road trip. Also, if you're having a hard time figuring out where you're going, drop your desired locations and destinations in the comments, and I will stay tuned and answer with my ideas for your road trip. Additionally, if you see somebody commenting about a place that you have been, go ahead and answer them with advice that you might have, so we can use the power of community for us all to have a better time. Back to the video. So if your first destination is a whole 15 hours away, or just further than you want to drive all at once, let's fix it right now by finding a place to stay somewhere along the way. Now, I'll do that here on my second drive of the journey. This is Boise to Moab. It's showing 8.5 hours. So say I don't want to drive all that all at once. So let's find somewhere to stop along the way. Open yet another Google Maps tab. I know, it's a lot of Google mapping. Just bear with me, it's going to pay off. So put in your 2 points and take a look at the route. Here I see that Salt Lake is right in the middle. So that's an option to break up this drive, or I could go back to these handy suggestions that Google makes and pick something along the way. You can even hit see more stops right here for a more in-depth breakdown of the sites along the way. And these are organized from your start point to your destination. So I'm going to pick Salt Lake City. So now I go back and add it to my main route like this, and I plot it into my outline like this. So now I'm driving 5 hours from Boise to Salt Lake, which is only half a day's drive. So I'm gonna have the second half of the day to check out Salt Lake, and then I'll sleep there. That also puts my third destination, Moab, only 3 hours and like 45 minutes away. Remember to always note where you're waking up from and going to sleep at. Trust me, it helps. And I'm gonna put like 4 hours to Moab since I like to round up. And since this is another half day of driving, I get to spend the other half of my day either still checking out Salt Lake, or just get to Moab early and check it out, or stop somewhere along the way and check that out. You don't have to decide that kind of stuff right now though, just keep trucking along. Also, if you are going to spend multiple nights in one place, that is awesome. You just mark it down like this: wake up in Moab, sleep in Moab, no driving. And we'll fill it in more later. If you want to spend more than one night in some places, but you're not sure where you want to do that yet or how much time you really have, then don't worry about plotting those full days in one location yet. We can just add those after we're done figuring out how long the actual driving takes up. So keep plotting your points just like that, keeping in mind that after a long day of driving, like a full day, you got an 8-hour day, it could be nice to pick a short day of driving to follow it, where you'll have time to wake up, stretch, do something fun in the morning, maybe a little hike, and then finish the day with a half day of driving, like 3 to 4 hours. So that way it's not just back-to-back long haul driving. Also, if you're stopping to sightsee during your drive, like somewhere in between your two destinations, there's like a little roadside stop that you want to check out, then plot it just like this. So here I'm waking up in Moab, and I decide that I want to stop at one of the Mesa Verde sites on my way to Albuquerque, my next stop. So I'm going to add in Cliff Palace. That's one of the Mesa Verde sites. If you've never been, I highly recommend it. It's freaking amazing. And I'll log it into my outline just like we've been doing. So it's about 3 hours from Moab to Cliff Palace, and then I'm at Cliff Palace. And then I drive about 5 hours to Albuquerque. Remember to always round up a little bit on your drive time when there's some wiggle room there, just because traffic does happen. And I'm going to sleep in Albuquerque. Having your drive times where you can clearly see them like this is going to help you so much during your planning phases of your trip, when you're figuring out, oh, what do I need to pack? How much can I spend? How much time can I spend in each place? And it's also going to help you once you're on the trip, if you need to shave off some time because you're behind schedule, or you realize that you're ahead of schedule and can add time somewhere. Like I said, we're gonna use this outline a lot, so back to it. Once you've got all of your drive days down on your outline, you can take a step back and see how many days this is going to take you to drive. Also, if you added stops to your routes in the middle of long drives, go ahead and update your main route travel time and mileage right here at the top of your outline just to keep that up to date. Now, back to the question, how long does this take? So if you have already plotted a couple full days in places like I have right here with this full day in Moab, just forget about that for a minute and we are going to count all of the days that have driving in them. So either half or full days of driving. And for me, I have 10. So I know to comfortably drive this road trip, I will need 10 days. Okay, now we get to add in our full days at our location. So if you're working with a limited amount of time, say you have 14 vacation days to use, we can now see that we only need 10 days to comfortably drive this route. So I can spread the remaining 4 days into my outline as full days at my destinations, or maybe save one of those days as a rest day for when I get home. Or if you have a more flexible amount of time, or you're just plotting out your dream road trip and you want to see how much time you would need to have like your ideal trip, just knock yourself out adding those full days where you think that you would enjoy them most. And once you're done adding your full days, you should be able to see how long this trip will take you. I really hope that was easy to follow along. In our next video of this series, we're going to answer the next big question: how much will this cost? So if you're ready for that, please make sure that you've liked this video. It helps me out a ton. And then click here for the next one about road trip budgeting. If you're still plotting your points or you need help plotting, like I mentioned earlier, please drop a comment below with your destinations. I'm going to try and stay tuned to my comments and I will drop any ideas that I might have for your route. So I will be looking for your comments. And until then, I'm Tilly Toy. This is Tilly Toy TV, and I hope that I see you in the next video.